The story begins with a junior high school student named Ho Koo-hee is putting food and banana milk drinks into the locker of the boy she likes. However, the man came and told her that if he drank the milk, they would go out on a date. It surprised Koo-hee. The guy she's interested in drinks milk until it's gone. That day, they went out on a date. Shortly, they are in grade 9, now will go to a different high school in the future. They also took a picture together on their last day of school. Next, move in with Koo-hee's house. In that house, there is a mother who talks a lot and loves her brother who is studying medicine. His brother, Ho Koo-jun, is annoying and becomes Koo-hee's enemy at home. Finally, there is a father who does what his wife tells him to do. The next day, Koo-hee takes a bus to her first day of high school. However, it is not enough to pay off the e-money balance. At that moment, a handsome man came by and paid for 2 people. She felt like she was stunned by his good looks and kindness. Koo-hee was embarrassed because he had paid for 2 people, but the other person was her best friend, not Koo-hee. Shin Ji-hoon, a handsome man, paid for it in the end while winking at Koo-hee. Koo-hee's bad luck doesn't end when she gets to school. She just realized she was wearing her middle school uniform. Last but not least, Koo-hee has to wear the used school uniform. Not just there, it seems like bad luck never ends. At Ga-eun Middle School, Koo-hee finds out that her enemy is in the same class as her. Koo-hee had no choice but to keep quiet, and a flashback was shown. Koo-hee asked Ga-eun for a notebook she had borrowed when they were in middle school. However, Ga-eun says in a haughty way, "Forget it, I didn't bring it." The good Koo-hee just kept silent. Back to high school class, Koo-hee meets a talkative woman who says she is Cha Eun-woo's wife. The woman is Jeon Deok-hee, and she and Koo-hee become close friends because Koo-hee told Eun-woo that Deok-hee, who is Eun-woo's idol, often visits his parents' fried chicken stall. Even more shocking and embarrassing for Koo-hee is the fact that the handsome man who paid for her bus ride was in the same class as her. On the first day of school, the homeroom teacher told the class that it is against the rules for anyone to bully, harass, oppress, or do anything else like that. During the break, some of the seniors acted like they were from a wealthy family, where a woman named Yura and a man named Ajun run their gang. That night, Koo-hee works as a waitress at the family chicken restaurant to help out her parents. Soon, Cha Eun-woo and his brother came out and said hello to Koo-hee. It turns out that Eun-woo goes there a lot because he is the best friend of his brother. When Koo-hee gets home from work, she sees that her boyfriend has changed a lot and tries to go see him. However, Koo-hee saw her boyfriend with another woman that night by accident. Koo-hee was upset that night because he still wasn't sure. Finally, Koo-hee asks her friend Deok-hee for help to find out more about her boyfriend tomorrow at school. They find out that Koo-hee's boyfriend has been cheating on her. Even worse, the boyfriend makes Koo-hee think that he is a stalker. The heartache made the person angry. At home, Koo-hee is confused, and so are his brother and Eun-woo. The next morning, Koo-hee gets a message from the mysterious application Revenge Note. At school, Koo-hee is getting more upset when she hears satire from Ga-eun. Finally, Koo-hee, who left the class, ventured to open and join Revenge Note. Revenge Note is an application that can take revenge on its target. Finally that day, Koo-hee tried it by typing Jun-woo, her ex's name, as a target. After the target receives a message for revenge, it's true that bad luck continues to befall Jun-woo, Koo-hee's ex-girlfriend. After success, the application will automatically notify Koo-hee that her revenge has been successful. Of course, it made Koo-hee shocked and confused. Until when she was at school, she thought about Deok-hee, who masterminded this application because he always justifies any means to get close to Chi-eun-woo. After that, during a sports class, the teacher ordered them to play a game to protect women from throwing balls. Koo-hee was paired with Ji-hoon that day. However, unfortunately, Koo-hee's head was hit by the ball. While eating, Deok-hee told about Ji-hoon, who was carrying Koo-hee, when she fainted from the ball earlier. It seemed that Koo-hee, who had just found out, was silent until she was surprised when Deok-hee thought that Ji-hoon liked Koo-hee. That night, Koo-hee's father intends to help a student who is being bullied by a group of other students, without her father being beaten. Finally, after disbanded Koo-hee came. However, the father did not tell the truth. The next day, a group of bad kids called out to Koo-hee at school. Koo-hee's seniors didn't accept, so they beat her up in a room and told her to always do what they said. Then, in class, Koo-hee tells what happened to her best friend Deok-hee because she wants her high school years to be easy and normal. That night, our mother's fried chicken stall, an angry Kuvi scolds her father because she thinks this is all her father's fault for always getting involved in other people's lives and how it affects her daughter. It is also known that customers have said bad things about their fried chicken stall. That night, when they get home, Kubi tells Eunwoo about her fear. His brother was quiet behind the door so he could hear what Kugi was saying, as if he wanted to be a good brother to Kugi. When Eunwoo gets home, Kugi, who has been following him, calls him to tell him not to tell her family about what happened at school. Eunwoo also hugged Kugi to calm down. On the other hand, it looked like a mysterious man was taking pictures of Eunwoo, the star who was hugging Kugi. The next day, a government agency came to her mother's fried chicken stall to close it because there had been so many bad reports about it. After the inspection, the stall was allowed to reopen. There are still people who have been poisoned and are getting care at the hospital right now. Kugi's family has no choice but to give up. When Kugi got home from school, he was picked on again by a group of kids. Let's call them Broomsticks, which is the name of their gang. Yet, all of a sudden, Ji-hoon is there to protect Kugi. Once, Kugi saw and heard the Broomsticks gang talking about how they were going to make Kugi's fried chicken stall look bad by acting like they were poisoned. When Kugi heard that, she was silent and angry. The app goes off. Kugi was unsure at first, but in the end she typed the name of the leader of the gang. Elsewhere, the gang leader playing pool gets a notification about herself being the target of revenge, and it's true that bad luck continues to befall the target. Until the next day, they are called by the principal because the video of Kugi's father beating was spread. After school, Ji-hoon gets an incoming message from Kugi, who turns out to be being bullied again by the Broomsticks gang. At first, Ji-hoon was heavy-hearted because Kugi had said not to interfere in her affairs anymore, but because he already has a feeling, Ji-hoon immediately approaches the gang with his best friend. Ji-hoon managed to beat the whole Broomstick gang, then immediately took Kugi away from there. Soon the gangs who were scattered were approached by the police and took them all. That night, Kugi gets an incoming message from Ji-hoon, who gives her a little attention. Of course, that makes Kugi happy. Then she gets a message from Revenge Note about her successful revenge. Again, Kugi was surprised. How can that be, or is someone watching me? The next morning, Kugi was still thinking about her close friends who masterminded the Revenge Note. Turning to her mother's fried chicken stall, which is now reopened, and immediately visitors exploded because the star Chi Eun-woo posted his photo with his favorite fried chicken stall in the background. On the way to school, Ji-hoon approached Kugi by giving attention, which made Kugi awkward. Until Ji-hoon gave his tie because he didn't wear a tie that day. As a result, Ji-hoon got punished by the teacher on duty. Hurrying to class that day, the teacher who taught was a teacher idolized by the students. His name is Mr. Kim. When the lesson was over, Mr. Kim seemed to only greet a student named Yuri. It is known that Yuri took part in a writing contest on behalf of her school. Because of this, the other students suspect that Mr. Kim likes Yuri. After that, during recess, Kugi and Deok-hee overheard the conversation of several students who had seen Mr. Yemi, the teacher on duty who was famous for peeking and watching adult videos at school. They also thought Mr. Yemi was a pervert. That night at home, Kugi, her brother, and Chi Eun-woo watched together while telling stories. Their Eun-woo tells Kugi, "Never about me at school." Kugi also agreed. Even before going to sleep, Sha Eun-woo greeted her adorable. In the room, Kugi prepares Ji-hoon's tie, which he had lent her, that she intends to give him a gift. The next day at school, Kugi and Deok-hee, who were enjoying their free time seeing Mr. Yemi from a distance, seemed to approach Yuri. Then, after that, Kugi also saw Yuri crying alone in a room. Suddenly, Kugi thought about Mr. Yemi, who was a pervert. Thinking for a while, she finally opened her revenge note and wrote Mr. Yemi's name as a target. Without lingering while Park Yemi was teaching, he had bad luck. Instead of the learning video that was shown, it was a video of having sex. Finally, Park Yemi was called by the principal that day. That night, when Kugi was about to deliver an order, he accidentally saw Yuri being taken by Mr. Kim forcibly. Kugi is shocked. She initially thinks it was Park Yemi, but it is actually Park Kim. However, at that time, Yuri managed to escape. That night, Kugi thinks about it and regrets targeting Mr. Yemi for revenge through Revenge Note. The next day at school, the Wall magazine had a notice about the writing contest. Ga-eum and her friends seem to be making fun of Yuri for taking Mr. Kim's heart so that she can enter the contest. When Koo-hee hears this, she doesn't agree. Instead, she stands up for Yuri and fights until the teacher makes her stop. Koo-hee tells Deok-hee about Mr. Kim while they are eating after school. He also makes a plan to help Yuri by sending a message to Mr. Kim to meet in a room. That night, Mr. Kim came into the room and said, "If you want to do what I want, the right choice is for me to lecture you." Mr. Kim was finally surprised that it was Koo-hee when he held up his middle finger. Mr. Kim was stunned, so he tried to scare Koo-hee. Their plan works because Deok, he seems to secretly record Mr. Kim's conversation and send it to Yuri right away. The next day, the video was all over the internet. This made the lewd Pak Kim a target of ridicule at school until he was kicked out. Lastly, Yuri, who used to be sad, has become a happy girl, especially since she was chosen to take part in the writing competition. The scene moves to the library. Ji-hoon comes up to Koo-hee and praises what he did to protect Yuri. Koo-hee, who is embarrassed, quickly changes the subject by giving Ji-hoon his old tie and a discount coupon for their fried chicken stall as a gift. When Ji-hoon heard that, he was very happy. That night, Koo-hee helps her friend, who is a big fan of Cha Eun-woo Astro, search for Astro and song releases at Deok-hee's house, because Deok-hee wants Astro's name to come up first when the search is done. It turns out that not only Deok-hee, but also her mother is a big fan. Even her mother made sour crab packets for Cha Eun-woo to send to him. The next day at school, Deok-hee and her friends talk about Cha Eun-woo Astro and pick on Ji-hoon's best friend, who makes fun of Cha Eun-woo's face. Koo-hee helps her mother at the stall after school. Because Cha Eun-woo had listed this fried chicken stall as his favorite place, it seemed like the place was full of his fans that day. The next day at school, Koo-hee and Deok-hee are shocked to hear that Cha Eun-woo has a relationship with a student and is involved in a scandal. When Koo-hee saw the picture in the news, she suddenly remembered when Eun-woo hugged her to make her feel better. Hearing that Deok-hee doesn't believe it happened is making her more worried. That night, Koo-hee gets a call from Cha Eun-woo, who tells her not to worry because he will take care of everything. At the time, Cha Eun-woo's manager told him to ask a woman who was hugging Eun-woo to explain. Eun-woo doesn't want to listen to him at all because he doesn't want anything bad to happen to Koo-hee. He remembers when Koo-hee was a little girl and helped comfort Eun-woo's sick mother. Until little Koo-hee came with an umbrella to pick up little Eun-woo, who was stuck in the rain. One night, it seemed like everyone at an internet cafe was an Astros fan buying concert tickets online. Fans had to move fast because they were limited. Deok-hee and her mother, who were also there, didn't get concert tickets. Because of this, Deok-hee's mother scolds her, and she can't sleep at home. So Deok-hee went up to Koo-hee and stayed with her. Koo-hee was busy that night, but Deok-hee was at home relaxing when Koo-hee's brother came up to her and gave her a photo album so she wouldn't get bored. As soon as Deok-hee opened the photo album, she stopped talking and decided to leave Koo-hee's house. After helping her mother at the stall, Koo-hee found that Deok-hee had left her house after looking at the photo album. The mysterious man who took the photo secretly and who seemed to be back at the time is spreading bad news about Eun-woo somewhere else. The next day at school, Koo-hee sees her best friend Deok-hee and is worried about her. However, Deok-hee doesn't care and moves to a different seat. As they talk about Eun-woo, bad news about him starts to spread, and soon everyone thinks he is lying. When Koo-hee heard that, she quickly defended herself in a loud voice. Koo-hee still thinks about Eun-woo's problem when she's at home. Then her brother, who was Eun-woo's best friend, told her to calm down and let Eun-woo figure it out. After that, Koo-hee tried to talk to Deok-hee again, but she didn't pay attention. The Astro concert was canceled because of Eun-woo's problem, which made one of the Astro members scold Eun-woo at the time. After school the next day, Koo-hee is sad again because Deok-hee doesn't care. On that rainy day, Koo-hee was walking slowly when Ji-hoon came up and gave her an umbrella. When Koo-hee's best friend Deok-hee showed up just as she was about to clean the house, she finally told her why she was mad. That's because the photo album her brother gave her, which had a picture of them with Cha Eun-woo. Deok-hee was annoyed, and she knew it. After that, Koo-hee took it upon herself to send a letter and a package with Eun-woo's photos and his signature to Deok-hee's house. In the letter, Koo-hee talks about how she and Cha Eun-woo have been friends since they were kids, and she also talks about her brother. After getting the letter that night, Deok-hee went to talk to Koo-hee. Even though they were sitting right next to each other, they first talked through chat. In the end, they were friends again. Since then, Deoki, who doesn't want her idol's career to be ruined, has been trying to find out who the mysterious man is who is spreading the fake news, and she has asked all of Eunwoo's biggest fans to help. When Deoki and her friends finally find the mysterious man's IP address, they tell Koo-hee right away. When Koo-hee found out the name of the mysterious man, she opened the revenge note and went after him right away. On the other hand, the man vowed a message that he was going to be the target of revenge. The mysterious man's computer turns off right away. While that was going on, Deoki and her friends, who already knew the address, went there right away to find out more, but they didn't get anything that day. Fans kept digging until the next day when they found the face of a woman who had said she was a fan that Eunwoo had harassed. On the other hand, Owen looks scared when she hears that Astro is back because fans have gathered evidence and will give it to a lawyer. Next, we'll talk about Deoki, who was walking alone that night. She was caught from behind by a man who had been following her. Ji-hoon and his friend saw a Deoki doll that had fallen on the street on the same street. They also saw Deoki being taken away by a car, so they ran after her right away, kept looking for the car with the license plate number until dawn. After a long walk, they found the car. Just in case, they called the police. At the same time, the mysterious man threatens Deoki, who is being held hostage. Ji-hoon and his friends were able to catch the man and save Deoki in the end. When the police brought the mysterious man in, the media seemed to be busy getting close to him. So it turns out that the mysterious man used to be in the band Astro, but Cha Eunwoo took his place. By making a scandal, they can threaten to give them their full money. Fans of Eunwoo worked hard to find out everything, and in the end they did. The story then moves on to Koo-hee, who gets a message from Revenge Note saying that justice has been done. Koo-hee helped Deoki get tickets to Astro's concert on the day of the show. Mom and Deok went to a building. They are given special treatment until they are taken to meet the idol. They were so happy to hear from every member of Astro that they couldn't believe it. While they are sitting together, Deok nervously asks Eunwoo to eat at Koo-hee's fried chicken stall with her. Eunwoo agrees. A few days later, Koo-hee comes to Deoki's house with a suitcase while she is relaxing. She is in a very sad mood. She ran away from home because her mother was always nicer to her brother than to her. She told Deok that funny thing fun story. She heard the sound of Deoki's mother crying because she saw her adopted son fail at an audition. Koo-hee decides to go back home because things were no longer good at home. Even though she ran away, no one was looking for her when she got home. The next day at school, their French teacher gave them a task to do in pairs. Touch the French nameplate, find out what it said, and write it down. After that, Deoki was allowed to go home first, so she could go with her mom to meet Samuel, who was her adopted son. A friend named Mo Nan-hee, who liked to make things up, talked to Koo-hee about it. Nan-hee asks for help to match Koo-hee with Ji-hoon while she is doing her makeup. She will find Koo-hee a good guy. Then she gave Koo-hee her lip gloss. All of a sudden, Koo-hee heard it go quiet. When Nan-hee got home from school, she told Koo-hee that the boy she was going to introduce to Koo-hee was willing to meet. Nan-hee wants to force Koo-hee, but she doesn't want to. Koo-hee had no choice but to talk to the boy after school. She did so at a restaurant. He turned out to be her ex. Nan-hee, on the other hand, tries to get Ji-hoon to join Koo-hee at the same restaurant. Ji-hoon had to do what she said, and he saw Koo-hee and his ex-girlfriend sitting alone. So, all of this is Nan-hee's plan to break up Koo-hee and Ji-hoon. That night, Koo-hee gets mad at her brother again because he picked up Ji-hoon's phone and said something bad to him. The next day after school, Deok and Koo-hee suddenly went up to her best friend, Ji-hoon, and asked her to help her with a French assignment. She then told Koo-hee to just join Ji-hoon's group. Koo-hee told Junwoo that her brother picked up the phone last night and talked about himself and Junwoo, who had nothing to do with it, while she was walking alone. Ji-hoon, who is kind and understanding, invites Koo-hee to lunch with him right away. When Koo-hee got to the restaurant, she ate everything. Seeing Koo-hee like that, Ji-hoon liked it. After eating, they went outside and saw a French leaflet. Right away, Ji-hoon saw right through Koo-hee's face and said, "I love you." At that time, Koo-hee did something bad on his own. The teacher finally told them to take pictures, which they did. Back on the road, Ji-hoon's grip on Koo-hee's hand made her feel more awkward. Soon after that, Nan-hee bumped into Koo-hee. Nan-hee didn't like how close they were. The next day at school, Nan-hee does it again by spreading rumors that Koo-hee stole the lipstick she had given her. In front of the teacher, Nan-hee took apart Deok-hee's permission, which she said gave her mother permission to meet Samuel. Deok, he finally got in trouble with her homeroom teacher, even though she said she was allowed to go to the funeral. However, she wasn't punished because the teacher liked Samuel, Deok's adopted brother. Nanhee threatens Koo-hee in an empty room. When another student was about to walk in, she would suddenly drop her body as if she were going to do what Koo-hee asked. So Nanhee is like this because Ji-hoon had time to tell Nanhee that he wasn't interested in her at all when he met Ji-hoon and Koo-hee after that. Nanhee tries to mess with Koo-hee's life because she is angry. After that, Koo-hee, who didn't like Nanhee and upset her friend, opened the revenge note and wrote Nanhee's name on it as a target.